Thank you, Mrs. President, Mr. President. Welcome to everybody. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for having adopted yesterday some motions, and I have understood it was not always an easy discussion, but this is part of parliamentary life, to find, to discuss, and finally to have an agreement. And if it's nearly unanimously, then it's good, but sometimes it's only a majority, but this is democracy, that we have to use this, and I can always only invite everybody to have the political debate in the parliament and not outside. Sometimes it's necessary to discuss things also outside, but the focus should be on the parliamentary work, and therefore I'm really delighted to be here at the fourth session of the Euronest Parliamentary Assembly, and it was already said, I also would like to convey greetings from the High Representative and Vice President Federica Mogherini. I attach really a high importance to your work as the parliamentary dimension of the Eastern Partnership. I'm therefore particularly pleased to have the opportunity today to discuss the review of the ENP with you so soon after the launch of your joint consultation paper, but I also would like to ask in particular, or not in particular, to ask the members of the European Parliament for their understanding, because they have already listened several times to me about the review of the ENP policy, and probably they could also give the speech instead of mine if I look to Edward Kukan and others. But let me start by underlining that the European Union wants to be a key partner for all countries in our neighborhood while defending their right to choose their own way forward. The European Neighborhood Policy was created to build new partnerships with the European Union's direct neighbors based on shared values, stability and prosperity. Those fundamental objectives remain as valid today as they were when the European Neighborhood Policy was launched more than 10 years ago. Indeed, they are now this is now more important than ever to be still focused on the fundamentals. But the situation in Europe's neighborhood has changed dramatically since the ENP has been in place. Growing challenges to a number of Eastern Partnership countries, from the crisis in Georgia in 2008 to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, have been caused by an increasingly assertive Russian foreign policy. This has also exacerbated divisions between Russia and the European Union. There are ongoing crises in the south as well. Syria has been afflicted by civil war since 2011. Libya is currently in conflict. There is a complex transition in Egypt, and the Middle East process is stalled. This all underlines the clear need to review the assumptions on which the policy is based. We need to ensure the ENP can, in the future, support more effectively the development of an area of shared stability, security and prosperity with our partners. That is why President Juncker asked me, in cooperation with the High Representatives and other colleagues, to carry out a far-reaching review of this policy in the first 12 months of my mandate. The consultation paper we have just published will form the basis of a public consultation over the next 3 to 4 months. I encourage you to express your views on the policy on its future paths. The dialogue you have with your national governments and the European Union institutions will be an invaluable contribution to the ENP review and to the implementation and future development of the Eastern Partnership. We want to hear from all of our neighbors, and that includes hearing your views and learning from your experiences at all levels and from all stakeholders, ranging from government and civil society organizations to business and academia. We want to discuss how the design and implementation of the EMP can be better adapted to your interests, but also to ours. We will meet Southern Partners foreign ministers already on the 13th of April in Barcelona, and Eastern Partnership foreign ministers on the 20th of April in Luxembourg. The Eastern Partnership Summit itself in Riga on the 21st and 22nd of May will of course also be an occasion when both partners and member states will be able to express their views at the highest level. And we will then come forward with proposals in the course of autumn. There has already been a lot of informal consultation about the review. Many member states and partners, and indeed some of you, have already given views. We would appreciate your views on 4 key points which have already evolved from all these contributions, reflections, etc., ahead of the presentation of our consultation paper. The first one is, what can we do to increase the scope of differentiation in the way we work with our partners? We need to do more to recognize that our partners are very diverse, not just different East and South, but different within the East and within the South. Some, including Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova, want closer integration with us. And in these cases, we need to reflect on what further steps are possible to ensure that they get all the support they need to undertake the political and economic reforms that are necessary to progressively bring them into the European mainstream. Ukraine has taken some important first steps to reform in difficult circumstances. However, further progress on genuine reforms is urgent in the areas such as rule of law, including timely entering into force of the law on public prosecution and fight against corruption, improved public administration, economic development, energy sector reform, and constitutional reform. I encourage Georgia to implement the association agreement in a spirit of inclusiveness and consultation with the relevant stakeholders. Likewise, we expect Moldova to focus on swift implementation of its association agreement. I strongly encourage Moldova to step up its efforts on key reforms, especially in the justice, financial, and media sector, public administration reform, and on prevention and fight against corruption. Let me stress that Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine are not alone in the implementation and reform process. Important EU assistance is linked with the current reform agenda and will be equally linked to the needs arising from association agreements implementation. I want to strengthen cooperation with Armenia and Azerbaijan respectively. We have been exploring with Armenia the possible scope of our future bilateral cooperation, bearing in mind Armenia's other international commitments. We are prepared to further support Armenia in areas such as good governance, human rights, fighting corruption, reforming the judiciary, implementation of the mobility partnership, and the visa facilitation and readmission agreements in force with the European Union. Moreover, we will continue to promote and support civil society in Armenia. We hope our recently concluded exploratory talks will lead to negotiations on a new legal basis and scope of future wide-ranging EU-Armenia relation. Even if Azerbaijan is not present at this session, I would like to make some comments on the country because it's part of our neighborhood. Interests and values should go hand in hand when developing our bilateral relations with Azerbaijan. We look forward to receiving Baku's ideas in this regard. We see many advantages in renewing our bilateral relations on the basis of a new, comprehensive, legally binding bilateral agreement addressing all aspects of our relations, including trade, human rights, and energy cooperation. I should note that success of Southern Gas Corridor also depends on a stable, secure, and prosperous Azerbaijan. As regards Belarus, I appreciate its balanced stance on Ukraine, and the European Union is ready to build on the positive steps Minsk has recently taken with regards to relations with the European Union. Belarus parliamentarians are not with us at the Euronest. Yet I hope that one day it will be possible for Belarusians to join your assembly. I know that you are keeping the door open for representatives of a democratic Belarusian parliament, and nevertheless, may I say I am happy to welcome some opposition leaders, and I am grateful that you have accepted to join this event. More generally, and both in the East and the South, we need to work out how to work with the neighbors of our partners without giving them a veto over any partner's engagement with the European Union. The second key point is ownership. We will never get the best from this policy while it is seen as something more or less imposed by Europe, rather than a partnership actively chosen by the other side. The new ENP must reflect the views and experience of our partners. It must not be condescending, patronizing, or preaching. We should develop a real partnership of equals based on shared interests, while always promoting universal principles. It's certainly in the spirit that we have been cooperating within the Eastern Partnership since it was created in 2009. My third point is about focus. I want to get away from the current model where we try to cover a wide range of sectors with every partner. For those that want and who are able, we should pursue the association agreements and the DCFTAs. But for those who cannot or don't currently want to engage so deeply, let's narrow the focus to where the real interests lie and build on more solid foundations. I am thinking on essential areas such as economic development, energy, connectivity, migration, mobility, security, and government fundamentals. These are areas where we can work together to make our partnership more effective. Lastly, we need to be more flexible. This means being able to react to changing circumstances and crises when they arise, including with our financial instruments. In the case of Ukraine, the European Union has managed to quickly mobilize a broad range of instruments to respond to the country's needs. The Union is currently implementing a 355 million state-building contract to support the Ukrainian government in preparing for in-depth reforms. It's providing 95 million euro to support private sector development and economic recovery, particularly in the East. Commission scaled up its assistance to meet the needs of the population of Ukraine regions suffering from the consequences of the conflict, totaling now 32.5 million euro from the EU general budget. The humanitarian part of the funding addresses the basic needs of the population in the areas directly affected by the conflict. It is also prepared to increase further its financial and technical support to political processes linked with the Minsk implementation. Some people ask me whether all this talk of pursuing interest means that we are giving up on our values. The answer is clearly no. The promotion of democracy, human rights, and rule of law is a defining characteristic of the European Union. But let us ask ourselves whether the ENP, as currently constituted, has been the success we hoped in transmitting these values. It's my view that the values that are at the core of the European Union are also in our partners' own interests. I will give you an example. Rule of law is key to long-term political stability, but equally to attracting outside investments. An independent judiciary and a system where justice is free from corruption is not only value in itself, but it is also indispensable to creating an environment for growth and jobs. So in the new EMP, the message should remain the same, but we should seek new ways to deliver our messages and to be heard. I am looking for concrete ideas that will deliver results in the short to medium term and ones the public can understand. And here I see a crucial role for you as parliamentarians in giving this review visibility on the ground in your countries and in ensuring that your constituencies' views on the EMP are feedback to us. So I thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to having an interesting discussion and debate today. But once again, there is an invitation, standing invitation to participate in this review process and to make your comments till the end of July. Thank you very much.